Okay, great. We're going to get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Andrea Diaz, President of American Management and Leadership by Design. We proudly present the Women of Color Executive Leadership Cafe podcast, Lesson Learned Leadership Series. American Management and Leadership by Design is a management consulting company that specializes in training and developing women executives, giving them the tools and to control their future, overcome imposter syndrome, and help manage their intellectual assets, and to dominate in their respective profession. Ladies, I am so over the moon excited today. I'm literally dancing in my seat. I'm gonna keep it professional. Today we have Miss Jennifer Dunn, founder of Bunifu, Learning for Life. So welcome, Miss Dunn. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So glad to have you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and everything that you do. And I mean, I was geeking out reading all the stuff that you do. I really was. I mean, being a former academician, I was like, I can hang out with you all day. So let's hear all about it. Thank you for being here today.
So, no, I'm glad that, thank you for having me, first of all. I'm very excited to be able to present. And, of course, as a woman of color, it's great to be able to be in a space to talk about, women of color situations, challenges, and issues, especially around, leadership and development and so forth. So, just a little bit about me. Again, I'm Jennifer Dunn, and I co-own a business with my husband, Maurice Dunn, and we started our business in 2017. We were both working full-time jobs, and I decided later in 2020 to leave my job and work for our business. We had a vision for the work that we're doing where we were going to support underrepresented student groups, traditionally underrepresented populations, whether it's through the power of education. And we were looking at doing it through online education. So I'm a longtime educator of 20 plus years. I started out as a classroom teacher, and then I moved into the nonprofit world where I worked for the College Board and then did training and development, actually worldwide, where I traveled internationally, as well as 75% of my job was initially doing training face to face for educators. And then
until the pandemic hit.
Well, it's funny because I was doing work through e-learning before the pandemic, and then I decided to step out of my job saying, hey, I've done this for 11 years. Now I'm ready to take on something of my own and kind of create something that I really felt in my heart that was necessary to support such as women of color, but also just traditionally underserved populations. And so that's when we started Bunifu, and it's pronounced Bunifu. It's a Swahili term. Yes. It's a Swahili
Correct me.
term.
I'm terrible with other languages.
That means creative. And so we like to say that we have outside the box e-learning or learning tools.
I love it. I love it. I just love the name. It just makes me even feel good. Just even though I said it wrong and I apologize, but like it just even like, makes me feel good even saying it. Okay, so let's get into our questions because I know you have a whole lot of nuggets to drop with on us today. So, as a woman of color, what's the one thing that you wish you had known when you began your career?
So it's funny that you started your intro with talking about biases and unconscious as well as conscious biases. Being I think a woman of color, but first of all, a woman, but also a woman of color, I don't think I was really conscious of the unconscious biases or the biases that just happened throughout my lifetime. I didn't really reflect on them. Of course, I talked with my girlfriends about it and the friends in my group that had similar experiences with me, but I really didn't think that it was holding me back from any type of career trajectory or leadership. And I wish I would have been more conscious and been more outspoken about it. And then I think I could have navigated places differently, but also had some internal things that I needed to develop to grow and develop a little bit better to combat situations, whether it was, things that were happening at the work where I felt like I wasn't seen or felt like I wasn't validated or even felt like I wasn't in a protected space.
That's so powerful. Like, no, honestly, feeling as if you're in a protected space is probably the first step. And even saying, because if you don't feel protected to begin with, you're not going to say anything else, because you're like, well, I'm not going to be protected, or I don't feel protected. And this goes, to Maslow's, your five basic needs, physiological, like you could go through the whole pyramid, and at the end of the day, if any of those things are missing, you're not going to feel comfortable. You're not going to say, well, if I don't feel like you're supporting me as an employee, how can I go to you with concerns? Because theoretically, we always think that we should be able to go to you, right? Or when I say to you, to the powers that be, right? You think that, well, you have my best interest at heart, shouldn't you? Like you should care about me as an employee, and that's a naivety that we all experience when we first enter the workforce. We think that you actually care about us as an employee. Oh, silly us, What was I thinking? I missed that day of class when someone said, by the way, no one really cares about you. And no one really wants your opinion, especially as a woman. And then a woman of color, worse yet, So it's literally, I think, for those who go to like a traditional 4-year school after they finish high school, which is what I did, you're still in this bubble. You have no idea. I mean, of course, as a person of color, you know of certain things, but you don't understand the workforce until you go out into the workforce, because that's a completely different dynamic.
Right. Right. I'm sorry, just the
No, go
systems
ahead.
that all work against you. I mean, it's just, that work against you, and then understanding those systems, and not internalizing those situations, because it's not about you necessarily. And I think sometimes as women of color, we take on to those negative feelings, and sometimes it could be very mentally and physically draining for us.
Yeah, because we have so many things, and I've mentioned this before, and I think particularly women of color, I think women experience this, but particularly women of color being critiqued into submission. So you learn early on that you really have to be so careful how you express an opinion, if you express it at all. If you express it at all, let's say that, because we're assuming that people are talking, right? Women of color out there are really not saying a whole lot, because I think they've kind of given up, that they don't want the problem. They're like, you know what, this is not worth my time.
So,
that kind of thing. Go ahead.
So, Dr. Diaz, I have to tell you this story just
Yes.
about, and I'm sure it happens in all workspaces for, people of color, or just women of color, but, just the whole thing about being aggressive, as a woman of color. I remember sending an email, and it was just, and I was sending an email explaining it, and the person was actually a higher level than me, so technically it wasn't, that's a power thing, right? A power thing that's going on as far as a dynamic, within the organization. Hey, should I be sending an email to this person who may be higher ranking, and then also explaining and having a conversation like we're on a level playing ground, which we are, because we all are human and we all pull our pants up the same way. Where later I heard from my direct supervisor that the email was aggressive, and my direct supervisor, and they came to that person and did not come to me. And I said, well, why didn't they just come to me? Because I didn't have any ill intent. I was just explaining and communicating factual what we needed to do for the project. So it was just very interesting, because then when I also talked about that situation and let other people read the email, many people who looked like me had very similar challenges, within the workplace. So
you know what I've learned, and I know exactly what you're talking about. I worked for a company, and every email I sent always had please and thank you and have a great day, and tap dance, like that kind of thing. Kind of thing. And I remember my boss, who was white, he said, your emails have an attitude, even though they have please and thank you. And you're like, okay, you know what?
Wow.
And then I said to myself, this is clearly, like, I knew at that point that there was nothing that I was going to do that was going to be right, because you had you had a narrative in your head. And as women of color, I think that I would love to have someone say, when you speak to someone, automatically understand that person already has a narrative in his or her head. And you have to either, I don't want to say combat that, or work around that, or work with that narrative, because you're not going to change the narrative just by talking to them. Some people, and I used to love this, because I was born and raised in New York, and they're like, well, you're very aggressive. I'm like, what? and you're looking around saying, I didn't even raise my voice. What are you even talking about? I don't even know, but that's where it begins, right? It begins, they talk about organizational cultures but that's where it
Mhm.
begins. That's where it begins. Now, me, if I thought that there was something going on, I would have taken that paper. Now I said, okay, Miss Dunn, it looks like you have something to say. Let's have a conversation. What do you want to tell me? And I say, am I misunderstanding this? Tell me, let me know, let me understand, I want to make sure that I'm where you are, because I can go somewhere else and then and it's going to be that much harder for us to meet, but those are people who are confident. Those are people who realize that this is nothing personal, but it's usually the people who have the the issues, that have the concerns, that are the ones that come back and say, well, you're difficult. And you said, what? Since when? When did I say something? Yeah. So I think this is why, as you can tell, like I do this podcast so we could talk about it, because as what else I find as women of color, especially if you're in a room of people of non-color, you can't sit next to each other, because then you're automatically conspiring. You know what I mean? Like it's like you're trying to overthrow the government. Like or they just
Exactly.
assume it just seems like you guys have like a secret handshake, like 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 you're
Right.
behind the doors or something, and you don't even know this person. Like
Right.
so the
Exactly.
lunacy. So yeah, no, I feel like we could write a book on the jokes of double standards in a good way. Not like
Yes.
but by the way, if I see you way across the room and I just make eye contact with you, they know each other. Like that kind of, we're doing a secret conspiracy, clap, clap, handshake, behind the door.
Yes.
This kind of
Yes.
craziness. Okay, so let's continue, because I feel like we could go off topic and would be a lot of fun, but we could go off topic. Okay, so what advice would you give someone wanting to pursue a career similar to yours? Now, I know that you said you started out as an educator and then you went into e-learning, right?
Mhm.
And I think that sometimes people think that you have to have. Well, let's talk about the process of just even stepping out. Because I know you said, well, my husband and I had this business and then I left, but there takes a certain type of individual to take that leap of faith, right? And to say, I could, you clutch your pearls and you jump. You know what I mean? So you actually you clutched your pearls 3 years ago and you jumped into something new. So what advice would you give someone, wanting to do something, because I think as women, I think we are naturally huge educators, and we don't all have to be teachers, but I think that's part of I really believe that's part of our personal makeup, this educators, because and I think especially women of color are educators, because we understand what has been done to us, either consciously or subconsciously. And I think that some of us try to help others to navigate that and to avoid some of that. So let me let you answer your question.
So, it's funny because I think, first of all, I had to get out of my uh, mental jail of realizing, I think it instilled in me was education is important. You have to go to
Mhm,
school. You got to go to more school, and you got to get more and more school. And then
mhm,
you have to go and get a job and whether you stay at that job or go to different jobs, you got to move up the career ladder. You got to make more money. You got to then get these material things. And those were things of achievement that
mm,
were instilled in me as far as my background. And entrepreneurship was a term that you started hearing more and more about, but it was something like, well, they don't really have a real job.
yeah,
Like they don't
we
have a
work
real job.
harder than the average bear. Okay,
Right,
like
exactly. Right. But I think for me, it started, I had to get out of my head of I can do this and have the confidence that I can do this. And I don't
mhm,
necessarily need the structures, the traditional structures to make income, that I had the talents within myself to create, what I needed for the next step in my journey.
mhm,
Didn't mean that my journey of working did not support what I'm doing right now. I think having the expertise that I have helps me definitely do something in e-learning. And I personally was very strategic. My husband
mhm.
and I did sit down and we had an exit strategy. And
See, there
so
you go.
we thought about financially, what do we need to do to cut back on our expenses to make sure that we could support this entrepreneur journey? We also looked at what our income, oh, we want to work on one income. So
Mhm.
we then could save just in case things didn't work out, that we had a runway of 6 months to a year to make sure, okay, things didn't go right
You
for
can
the
pivot.
business. Yes, and we could
That
pivot. So it took us several years. And we also, people's like, oh, do you have a plan? Do you have a business plan? At first, I was like, did we really need a business plan? We had the 1-pager business plan. You have a 5-pager business plan. You have a 20-page business plan.
Mm-hmm.
We actually took the time to write out our business plan and project our expenses for the first 5 years of the business.
Mm-hmm.
And so doesn't mean that it doesn't change, because your business plan is an evolving document.
It's a living document.
Changes. Exactly.
It's a living document. Yeah.
Exactly. And so the thing is that we planned. We did things that were, we decided, okay, are we going to send our son to a private school, which is $20,000 to $40,000 in elementary, and which is an option if we stayed at the job. But we decided, okay, we're going to do the public education thing. We're going to do this. We also downsized. So
Right.
we downsized and we decided, okay, do we really need this to live? We can do something else, because what is important to us? And
Right.
so we really took on like you said, an exit strategy. And then we pivoted into a business. And then all of a sudden, COVID hit, and we have an e-learning business, and it skyrocketed.
It took off because it was a platform that was needed.
Yes.
That's what it was. You were ahead of your time, but
yes.
you were on time. You know what I mean? That's what you were ahead of your time, but you were on time. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that also I had to follow my peace, for someone else, their spirituality or the way that they are led. But for me, my peace was, I felt an anxiousness after my 11-year career at this particular company. It was time for me to go, because I wasn't feeling at peace, and I felt like there was something else and something better for me.
I love that. I love that. That's kind of like what happened. I remember working. I can't work for anyone else. I mean, it will never happen again. I'm telling you that right now. Like God would have to part the heavens open and say, you have to stop your successful business, and I would say, can we talk about it? Because I have to tell you that the lunacy that's out there, I will never put up with again. Now, it's different if we're doing clients and we're working at, it's a different playing field,
Mm-hmm.
but no one will ever dictate my future. So basically, and what I found the problem was is that people wanted to tell me what to do. Not that I'm like, oh, I need to tell you what to do. That's not what I was saying. But as opposed to, I saw that if you felt that you can control someone better, that was your favorite person. But if someone actually had a thought, and it wasn't just me, like I noticed this with other people, if you had a thought or an opinion or saw something, you're difficult, you're this, you're that. And it's not because you're difficult, it's because they didn't think of it first, so they're intimidated by you. So there's a whole psychology behind why I'm kind of doing this, because I wish someone had told me these things 25 years ago. I wish someone had told me these things when I was now starting out and still a little bit in college before I got out, and say, okay, listen, let me tell you what the real world is like. Because where you are in college is not the real world. Okay. This is still a bubble, and you have I remember when one day I realized that I knew nothing. Like, like when you have the realization, you're like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what's going on anymore. Like, what's happening? And it's a powerful moment. It's a powerful moment because it really makes you realize, you're like, okay, I need a plan. I need someone to help guide me through this. And how do we get from point A to point B, whatever the case may be. And yeah, it's I want to say the struggle is real. The struggle is real. But if we can help one more person, right? If we can have this conversation and help one more person have a better experience than the experiences that we had, then I feel like we've done our job, right? If we make it better for the next generation, we've done our job. Okay. So what recommendations would you advise as it relates to advancing up the ladder, not just as a woman, but a woman of color? Any particular resources, because we don't have the same opportunities. And, as much as they like to say, oh, we're equal opportunity employer, and we do this, we do that, that's not the case. What I found is that women who advance, especially if they're women of color, yes, they're competent, but they had that one person that believed in them to help them along the way. And so it's very difficult as a woman of color to do it on your own. And I don't recommend that anyone do it on their own, but you need how they say that you need a village to raise a child. You really need a village to help you get to those points in your career. So what recommendations would you have?
So, I was very fortunate through each career transition that I've had really good mentorship and sponsorship.
Mm.
So mentorship, and sometimes I didn't even identify the mentor as a mentor until later, where I saw this person coaching me in ways and through different situations, and also pushed me where I didn't necessarily like to be pushed. Basically saying, I had one mentor say, well, your work is trash worthy. And I was like, what? I done worked all that. And I'm like, what? So, but the thing is, it pushed me to fight and to do more. And then when I went into situations that I wasn't as readily to back down, I was able to realize, okay, this is a situation. How do I play the situation in a way that's going to be strategic for me to move up? And also looking at, if I was in an organization right now, I'm not in an organization, I'm creating my own organization. But when I was in an organization, I really had to understand there was spoken structures and unspoken structures. And I really had to understand those. And one was the organizational chart. I remember somebody said, well, did you ever look at the organizational chart? Did you see the department over here and who reports to here and who does this? And I was like, I never even thought about that. Like, was that
There's
even
a hierarchy.
important?
There's a hierarchy. There is. And
Yes.
you better look at it, and you better know not to talk to point to person A without talking to person B first before you get your hand slapped.
Yes, yes. But then also realizing, how do you use that to your benefit if you're in an organization, and how do you connect with other individuals? So I had mentorship, and I also had sponsorship within that. So I don't think I would have ever gotten, and sponsorship is different, meaning that this is somebody who's going to fight for you behind closed doors, or they're going to hire you when they just know that you need to be there. They don't know your talent. They haven't been recommended by you, but they're pulling you up because they know that this is the right thing to do and you have the talent and skill to do it. And I had many instances where people did that for me. And
you were fortunate.
it helped me. Yes,
you were fortunate.
I was very fortunate to have that happen. And then those people, when things didn't go right, they became mentors to me to help me navigate very political situations that could have occurred within the system. And one other thing, I think for me, girlfriends are very important. My village is important. That isn't necessarily someone who is in a career, but they are always the one who help keep me grounded on who I am and how and what I represent, and affirm that so I can go out and fight another good fight.
That's so important to have that person that you can speak to, and to have that village, because I remember when my girlfriend, I was pursuing my doctorate, and I think I was in my just close to my third year, and I called her one day at work, and I said, hey girlfriend, I said, how you doing? She says, hey mama, how you doing? And I said, do you remember why I decided to go for a doctorate? And she says, no, why? I was like, I said, I was hoping you were going to remember to tell me why I'm punishing myself. You know what I mean? It's like, so you need that friend that's gonna not let you go out to the club looking bad. You know what I mean? That's gonna say,
Yes.
okay, that's not really the best outfit on you, and let's bring that back in. So so yeah, I'm a fan of the village, and I think I'm trying to create a village with this Women of Color Executive Leadership Cafe, just as a maybe it's not your girlfriend, because maybe your girlfriend is not necessarily the best person sometimes, because they may not know either. You're still going to them because you're thinking but sometimes they don't necessarily know, because they didn't have someone to help them. So this is why I'm creating this little village for ourselves, to say, here's some material to refer back to. All of this is free. All you have to do is listen. Imagine that. So okay, so what are some of the best resources that have helped you along the way?
So it's funny because, I could recommend many books, but one of the things that I have found very beneficial is being part of online groups, especially now that COVID and we're at home. And I have become like a Facebook groupie or a group groupie of certain groups, because I can get the latest trends. And of course, I'm in technology, so I get a lot of the latest trends and information through those groups. And I read
Right.
a lot of I think it's real-time information other than books that are coming across through reports that may be, provided through associations or research studies around, information other than getting, not that I don't read books, but I think it's also important to see what is trending right now, because things right now are changing so rapidly and so quickly that I think it's just has to be, published online if as long as it's a
Mhm.
good resource, but also being able to connect with people from other parts of the world now. I can
Mhm.
talk to somebody else that's across somewhere that I would have never been able to talk to, and also then decide to have a coffee with them and set up a Zoom meeting and get
Mhm.
different nuggets and information about how they're doing something. And I think we have to be open to networking in this different space.
I think that's a great point. I actually have you're so right about talking to everyone from different cultures, different time zones. I actually have a call tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern time, 7 or 3 p.m. Thailand time. You know what I mean? 'Cause I have someone from Thailand who's going to be calling me to ask me about how I can help her. And this is what I'm talking about. Like there's so many people out there. Like sometimes we just look at the United States because it's just easy. But I would recommend that you go outside of your comfort zone. One place that I have found incredible success networking internationally would be a platform like Clubhouse. But that's only if you have like the Apple system because it's not on the Android yet. But it is amazing. That's how she met me. She listened to me and she was like, "Hey, Dr. Andrea, can I talk to you?" And then she ended the sentence, "Sorry to bother you." And I wanted to say, "Stop apologizing." It literally made me want to pull my hair out. I don't want to say so. I can't wait to talk to her tomorrow. Like because I want to say the first thing I want you to do is stop apologizing. Because as women, that will all it automatically puts us at a lower standing, saying that we're not worthy. We're not. See, you already got me started. Let me finish these questions. Let me go. Okay. So got me started. I'm gonna stay on topic. Okay. So tell me a moment. This is actually my favorite question. I actually wanted to start with this question, but I have a sequence of questions. So tell me a moment that blew your mind or shocked you in the professional environment, and what was your most important lesson learned from that experience?
When you sent that question, I've been trying to, I was trying to think about what was the most shocking moment. I think is when a colleague lied
Mm,
on my work, and the work that I was doing. I think I didn't know how to um, receive, how to actually um, defend myself because it was in a public space.
mm,
And I think that was probably one of the most challenging is when um, a colleague lied on the work that I did and took some responsibility that they took on the work. Um, and I, was just shocked, because this colleague and I had been working for years together. And, but however, there were signs.
mm.
Um,
Okay, let's talk about the signs because I said this in Clubhouse. I said, a young lady was saying that, she worked for this IT company and oh, I'm not really sure if it was like sexism or, like and I'm here and she sounds like a perfectly rational person. Like, she doesn't sound like she's like off her rocker at all. I mean, she was playing both sides of the argument. So she was clearly very rational and objective in this. And I said, if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, talks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And I said, listen, honestly, don't and I said, because what we do, we haven't you found sometimes, especially women, men don't necessarily do this. Women do, we try to change the narrative to suit the situation, to make it prettier for ourselves. Right. We change and we see the signs. It's like, danger, danger, danger. We see the signs, but we're like, you know what? Maybe it's not really that. And we literally
yes,
talk ourselves out of
yes,
things.
yes.
Okay, go ahead, go ahead.
No, no, no. I totally agree. And when you say talk yourself, many times I would go home after work and talk myself out of the situation. I mean, after years and then it should have never been a shock, but talking myself out of, no,
Because
it should
you
have
had
never been a
changed the
shock.
narrative in your head. Yeah, you
Yes.
had created a
Oh
narrative in your
no,
head
this
to make it nice.
possibility, it's me. It's something that I need to work on. I need to pray about it. And then I was like, pray. You know, and I think
Listen,
as people of color, we're like, oh, let's pray about it. Let's, you know, turn the other cheek. No, you
yeah,
know,
there's I'm
that's
like
not work. Right. It's
yeah.
not work. And I think that sometimes we can be subservient, like you saying, the sorry, and not realizing that we're being that way. And I had to learn the hard way. And then I had to take up for myself. That means I had to open my mouth. I had to be able to speak up about my work. And I had to be confident about that as well. And I think that, you know, and that actually situation was years ago, but however, it was a situation that made me not ever be put in that predicament again. And I
Well,
have been put in a predicament, but it was a different narrative than it
well,
was
there you
before.
go. Because you know what? I always say, you just gotta catch me one time. That's why I said, you just gotta catch me one time. I'm gonna make sure it's the last time. It's gonna be the first time and the last time. I'm gonna make sure it's gonna be the first time and the last time. That kind of, yeah, that's kind of, that makes me, and I don't know why we do that. Men don't do that. You know, men don't do that. And the thing is, if men call a spade, it's okay. If women call a spade, they're like, well, why do you feel like it's this? Like, they all of a sudden they start questioning. I didn't see you question him, so why are you questioning me?
Yes.
You know, and so, all right, okay. So, so who are three people that have been influential to you, or the most influential to you? And if you don't have three, at least give me one. You know, like who? Because you don't have to have three, but some people are like, well, this person, and this person. So you tell me what you have.
You know, it's funny because I would say it's my father. Um, and I think because I at the, you know, I look young somewhat, I think. But
Oh,
he's
we got good skin. Go ahead. Black
um,
don't crack.
you know, I think he has, and now that he's in his 80s and he's seen so much and things that have occurred throughout, you know, the world and the nation as far as and what he has seen. I think I appreciate the golden nuggets that he can provide based on his experiences. I think as a culture that looks at youth as something that is powerful, I think we need to go back to our elders and realize that things are not, things are the same, and they're not necessarily always different, maybe a different form, a different
Hmm.
way. But I think we have to also look at our elders, and we
Hmm.
need to take on their wisdom, because they do have wisdom and life experiences that they contribute. And I think that you know, definitely my father is someone that, and you know, I know everybody doesn't necessarily have a father, but I think that elders within the community can provide, and we need to give them the respect that they deserve, because they do have a sense of knowledge and perspective that we don't have because we just haven't lived it.
Right, right. You know, I wonder. You know, I have a 4-year-old son, and I'm a little concerned for his future. The reason why I say this is because, you know, I'm in a different location. I'm actually visiting my parents for a few days. And when I was growing, and this is not to say anything bad, but like when I was growing up, we didn't have a plethora of money. So I could tell you that I didn't have a swing set in the backyard. I didn't have monkey bars in the backyard. I didn't have like these things. Actually, what we used to do is walk down the street and go to the local elementary school or whatever, and we used to play on the playground there and then come back. So now that I come in and I bring my kids and I visit my parents for a couple of days, things that show up from Amazon, you know, and I'm looking at them like, who, what is going? I am not saying that I walked uphill both ways to school. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, I'm not. Don't you think a swing set when we're just coming for a few days and some monkey bars in the back, like it's just a little bit too much? Like just, you know, so because in my mind, okay, I'm not saying that my kids have to go out and work, but at the same time, I don't want them to think that like, oh, all kids have monkey bars and swing sets at their grandparents' house, and all kids have like, you know what I mean? Like I just want to keep some semblance of reality, like, you know. So I wonder
Oh,
if I'm
that's not going
setting
to
my
happen
kids.
with your parents.
Yeah, probably.
That's not going to happen. they treat you differently than how they treat you, the grandkids. It's no, I just That's a battle that you're not going to
I'm
win.
just, yeah, say uncle, just know that that's it. So, okay,
Yeah.
well, let me just be like, okay. But yes, because I wonder sometimes, I'm like, am I spoiling my, and of course, I mean, my kids are not in school because of this whole, this whole
Mhm.
pandemic, but I wonder, I'm like, you guys already got rid of dodgeball out of school. So like, I'm like, so what kind of, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what's
They're playing
happening.
the Nintendo Switch
Yeah.
and they're not, yeah, no. Dodgeball.
Listen, I need to keep myself contained because I'll just go off on a tangent. Like I don't really understand what world we're living in. Okay, so what sentiments would you like to convey to your peers or young ladies today? Like like what do you think that before we end this conversation, what is something that we absolutely need to know or the ladies need to know before they go off and they live their lives? Like you're like, if you don't listen to anything I've ever said again, please listen to this. Like, what would you like to say?
Just really, just a sentence: be yourself and know that you're enough.
Mm, that's it. Just know your
Just
worth. Just
simple.
know that be yourself and just know that you are absolutely enough.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. I love that. I love that. So where can our listeners connect with you online? Where can they find you? I know I found you on LinkedIn, but I know that you just said that you're everywhere. So where can they connect with you?
So definitely LinkedIn. You can go to LinkedIn, or you could look at my business website, which is at www.bunifu.elearning.com. That's BUNIFU elearning.com.
I love it. I love it, Miss Jennifer Dunn. Thank you. And ladies, if you are tired of feeling as if you should be doing more or you need to do more, and if you feel like you should have a seat at the table, but you need some help, join American Management and Leadership by Design Wealth Program. Wealth stands for Women Empowered to Achieve Leadership Excellence through Tenacity and Hard Work. You can DM me on Messenger at Andrea Diaz, or you can call our 800 number, 888-824-4631. Again, that's 888-824-4631 for your 30-minute complimentary leadership strategy breakthrough session. And you can also follow me on Clubhouse at Dr. Andrea. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to Miss Jennifer. Thank you for coming out here and dropping your nuggets of wisdom. And I think you're my spirit sister. That's how I feel. And I feel like, that thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Ladies, I hope you enjoyed this conversation and we will see everyone next time. Everyone have a good day.